Okay, guys, welcome back. This week we've got some special guests joining us.
Special guest.
Star Wars fan royalty, I think it's fair to say. I always see you on TV when there's ever anything happening. They ring you up and get you in and get you to talk Star Wars. So I'm joined today by Neil Livesey and Paul Dunn, who are organising a rather special event, which we can get to in a little while. Let's just let's not shoot our load too early. But okay, Star Wars. Obviously, big Star Wars fans.
Yeah,
like myself. I'm gonna dare to say probably even bigger fans than I am.
I don't know about that.
Oh, I don't know. I think you're selling it short.
I don't make me living in the Star Wars universe like you.
Well,
I do.
Yeah, he does, yeah.
So what is it about Star Wars?
For me, first of all, there was a load of hype. I remember picking up the Lancashire Evening Telegraph, that esteemed rag. And there was these articles about this upcoming movie. And I'd kind of been half interested in geeky stuff, comics, bit of sci-fi on TV, Jerry Anderson stuff. So it kind of grabbed my attention that there was going to be this blockbuster movie. Because a lot of people seem to remember that Star Wars came out in 1977, which it did in the States, but it didn't hit our shores till 1978. And so there was all these reports coming from America that it was like the best thing ever and all that good stuff. It was hyped beyond anything, that had gone before. And when it came to the UK, it wasn't even shown in every city. So my choice, living in Blackburn, was to go to Manchester or to Blackpool. And I just thought the trip to Blackpool was easier than the trip to Manchester, plus the bonus of fish and chips afterwards and all that by the seaside. Mm-hmm. So I went to watch it on the big screen at the Blackpool Odeon, and it absolutely blew me away. There hadn't been anything like that previously, and I still think there isn't anything like Star Wars since.
Mm-hmm. I think, I don't remember any of the hype. I just remember going to the cinema. And I tell you what I do remember, though. There was, the whole side of the cinema seemed to be, like, pasted with an ad for it, which I'd not seen for any other movie when I'd been to the cinema, which wasn't that often because I was a little bit younger than you.
Mm. Everybody's a little bit younger than me.
Well, I'm catching you up, though, now, it seems.
For me, it was the first film I went to see with my parents. Because I must have been 7. And it was like, we used to go every now and then. It was the first major film I went to see with my parents. And it was just nothing like you've ever seen. Plus, you could actually go home and you could play with the figures, which just made it even better. Because I remember at Top Shop, we used to sell old figures.
Top Shop.
It's a northern thing, isn't it? But it was just brilliant. And I remember at the time, it were things like Viva Knievel and things like that we used to go pictures to see. And then it was like Star Wars coming out, and it was incredible, and still is. And again, like I said, there's not been anything like it since.
All the merchandise definitely helped, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. As we were saying before we started recording, I was 17 when Star Wars came out, so I never played with Star Wars toys. I've played with them with my children and my grandchildren, but not in the way that kids play with toys, where you make up your own new adventures for Han, Luke, Chewie, and whatever. And I kind of almost envy people who were kids at that time and who did get to play with the toys, particularly the play sets. You know, if I'd have been a kid, that I would have had well, I do have all the play sets as an adult, but I certainly would have had them as a kid, you know, where you got these environments that looked to, at least to a kid's imagination, like the sets from the movie, and putting your figures in, I would have been in absolute heaven.
And that's quite interesting, because the toys probably got me into this whole thing. It just gave it life. Like you were saying, Paul, you could come back from the movie, and then
You could.
you could recreate the movie. And that was back then when you didn't have video, and it took years to come onto the TV, and we didn't have a video recorder when it did come on the TV. So when it was on, you were there to watch it, but you had the toys to remind you of it, so it never went away. And then then the next film came out.
Yeah, you could go to watch it. You could go and see Darth Vader. Oh, that's my favourite character. Then you could go to a shop, you could buy Darth Vader, and you could be Darth Vader through the toys. And there'd not been anything like that.
And even the collecting cards, you didn't even have to spend a lot of money, but you could be buying something Star Wars every day as a child. That was amazing. Very clever. Very clever. It's still alive today, I think, probably because of the foundations that they laid when they brought the original film out.
Yeah.
Without doubt.
So you didn't play with the toys, but I know you're a massive toy collector. And you're also a toy collector, Paul.
Yeah, I've got a fair amount. I couldn't tell you what I've got because I've no idea.
But again, it's the toys that interest you.
Yeah. I'm a big autograph collector and a big toy collector, and I'm now going towards the toys. I just love them. I've got the full vintage collection above my TV, and it's just quality.
So was it the toys that brought you two together then?
No, it was the first Star Wars Fan Fun Day, which obviously Neil will talk about later. I've been a Star Wars fan all my life, and I remember seeing this advert at newspaper, this event in 2 minutes away from where I am. And I'd never seen anything like it. I'd never been to one. I didn't even know they existed. And
So would that have been your first
that was my first
convention experience?
Absolutely, without doubt. And I remember driving up. It was at Clayton Park, and you were driving up to the security hut, and on the barrier was two TKs, and it was just like, what on earth? That's the first time I'd ever seen anything like that. And I was just blown away. I remember we went inside, and there were only a couple of stalls, and Neil will tell you it weren't great, but to me it was like, what is this new world I'm coming to? And the only guests were Kenny Baker. He was about 3 hours late, I think, something like that.
That was the only guest.
Yeah, that was.
It was a good guest though.
Was a good guest. Back in the day, I didn't really know how to get hold of these people, which obviously changed pretty rapidly. But I met him at a convention and asked for his details, and he not, kind of half expecting him to say, no, I'm not giving you my phone number. But he gave me his contact details, and I rang him. He came back from Chicago a couple of weeks before our convention, and he was ill. And it was touch and go whether he would actually make it or not. And it wasn't until the night before that he actually said, look, I am definitely coming. I don't want to let you down, let the fans down or whatever. And there's quite a funny story. He, as Paul said, he turned up late. And when he did turn up, he was quite flustered. And there was a big queue of people waiting to get his autograph. A lot of kids in that queue. And he said, I'm really sorry I'm late, Nez. He said, I've had the bloody shits all morning. A friend of mine had told me, because he was suffering from constipation from this illness. He said, a friend of mine told me, take Senecots or Senepods or whatever they were called. So I looked on the back and it said, adult dose, 2 tablets. And he took 2 tablets, adult dose. He was 3'2", so they'd work right through him. And he'd spent the morning sat on the toilet instead of at the convention.
Oh man. But that, so I mean, I've been to the event. I didn't go to the first one. I missed that. But I've experienced it, and I know what that event's like. So to be your first event, that must have been that must have been pretty good because,
like I said, I'd not even, because I didn't go to the fish celebration at UK. I'd never even knew there was anything like it, and just that to see them two TKs on security, then Chewbacca were there, and it was just incredible. And then I think the year after I went, and then I'll get this wrong, I think Dave Prowse were there.
No, Dave wasn't there. If my memory serves me right, because it's not great, Richard Bono was there, who played a few parts. He was a snow trooper, a TIE pilot, and I think I'm right in saying he's nigh and numb when he stood up in the briefing room.
yes, wearing the costume.
Yes.
Well, he's actually the only one who we know was a TIE pilot. We don't know anybody else.
No.
That's true.
Garrick Hagan was there, Biggs Darklighter. Derek Lyons, who was Massassi Temple Guard and a medal bearer. And Richard Le Parmentier, Admiral Motti. And that was the lineup for the second one. If you're now going to ask me who was at the third, I haven't got a clue. I can't remember. but what started to happen is that that was a very difficult job in trying to get guests. They go on the circuit and they talk to each other at conventions and they say, you want to try and get on that one at Burnley, as it was.
Yeah.
On that Star Wars Fan Fun Day, because they look after you, and we make a point of looking after our guests and so on. And then, it became easier because they actually started ringing me and saying, I'd like to do your show. And I think it's well documented that I'm not a big fan of agents. And I never used any. I didn't need to. One of the great things about the old school guys is that they were all very approachable and accessible. And most of the numbers were in my phone, and I could just ring Dave Prowse, Darth Vader, and say, can you come this year? And he'd say yes, or no, I'm busy, or whatever. But it became apparent that to get, particularly as the new films came out, these people were being grabbed by agents and, told, look, I can get you good money for going to these events and all that kind of thing. Yeah. And it was only after Paul had started to get involved with the Fan Fun Day that we actually used agents, because he would tolerate them and talk to them and do deals with them, whereas I would just lose my temper and put the phone down on them. So, it's a fact that we have only had certain guests because Paul's done the deals.
But no, that were it. I think it was number 3 I started asking who's this guy who's running this. I think that's when I started annoying him. And a couple of years later, he just said to me, do you fancy coming to help? I realised he was literally 4 minutes away from your house. And he said, we're at the hotel now. He said, just having a drink with Darth Vader, Boba Fett and R2-D2. Do you want to come and join us? And I was like, what? How can you turn that down?
Yeah.
And it's ever since.
And this is it's the Star Wars Fan Fun Day. You brought the banner, which is good because I can read it. I always thought there was a family in there somewhere. I don't
for whatever reason, it does get misquoted a lot as the Star Wars Family Fun Day, but it's never ever been in the title. When we chose the name, right back in the beginning, it was when Steve Sonsweet was head of fan relations at Lucasfilm, and we were told we'd be okay if it didn't make any money, hence it all going to charity. We had the word fan in the title, and we kept it below 2,000 visitors, which it's only once ever gone over that, which is the first time Dave came. And successive fan relations people at Lucasfilm that I've managed to talk to by whatever means. I met Pete Vilmore at a Rebel Legion dinner, but when Mary Franklin was doing that job, I just conversed with her on email. And I was particularly worried when Disney bought it, will we be okay? And they just said, no, if you keep within those guidelines, you'll be fine.
I'd just like to touch on something, though, what you've just said. It's a charity event. This event is a charity event. We don't give a portion to charity. It is a charity event. We don't give £100, £200, £7,000, £8,000, £9,000 we raise at the event. So.
And is that with the dinner and?
It's mostly
because there's a lot that you cram into those, to the 2 days, really, isn't it?
It's really the dinner that raises the money. When we started out, we just asked the hospice to come along and do a tombola, which we provided all the prizes for. We just buy all those and actually stick the numbers on and screw the numbers up and put them in the thing. They just turn up and sell the tickets. And I don't know what they made the first year, 500 quid or something. Plus a bit of ticket money off the door. But then it became clear that, as you get bigger and more guests, you need to pay out things like guarantees and travel and accommodation and all of that good stuff. That really what started to happen is that the day just about paid for itself, and they were kind of almost going back to just making the money from the tombola. Mm-hmm. Not quite, but in simple terms. And what we used to do before the dinner with the Star Wars stars is take those guests out for dinner. And Paul and myself.
So this would be the day before the event. They all come into Burnley then.
Yeah.
In the afternoon, the day before.
Yeah.
So they're all in Burnley the night before.
And we would just take them out for,
So they can get up nice and fresh, and they don't have to sit on the toilet for 3 hours.
Yeah.
And everybody,
you've got them.
Everybody knows each other. And it's just something we've always done.
An icebreaker, a few drinks at the bar, and then we took them for a Chinese meal or a curry or whatever. And we were sat there one time and we just said, do you know what? People would pay to come and have dinner with them. And we were kind of like, would they? Yeah, I think they would. And so when we started planning the next one, we said, okay, let's do a dinner with the Star Wars stars and see if it works. And we didn't even pre-sell tickets in those days. I bankrolled the event with the hope of getting my money back, and then, as we've said, all the profits go to the hospice. So we just kind of said, if you're interested in this, email starwarsfanfund@aol.com, and the inbox just went crazy. So we thought, well, we're onto a winner here. And the whole idea of it in the first place was that we, and when I say we, I mean the show, didn't pick up the bill for dinner. The fans would pick up the bill for dinner by buying tickets. Mm-hmm. And the first one was a success, and so we carried on, and we've kind of added to it in terms of fundraising. And as I say, the dinner is where most of the money is made for the charity. The ticket sales cover, the venue hire, the food, the drink, the transport on the actual day.
So you're in, what's this now? What number is this?
Hang on. This is the 15th year, but the 13th event. Yes.
Okay, so we're missing two. What happened there?
COVID.
All right, okay. Yeah, makes perfect sense. So I think you were just talking me through the logos, and one of them was obviously all organised, or mostly organised, and then I presume cancelled
We,
after the lockdown started in March.
yeah,
So you were 2 months out.
2 months out, guest booked, and there was lockdown. Like most people, we thought, well, a couple of weeks and this will have all gone away, and it didn't. And so we had to cancel the event. And what we did is we cancelled the event, said, but we will honour all the tickets when we can do it. And we thought about doing it in the autumn. That didn't happen. So, well, okay, we'll do it on the nearest date to May the 4th, like we always do. And that didn't happen. So at that point, we said, well, we've held on to your money for 12 months. We'll refund now. And we had offered, by the way, particularly the vendors who were struggling with the businesses anyway through COVID, if they wanted a refund. And all of them said, no. But when 12 months had gone by, they said, yes, please, we'll have our money back. And then when we announced that we were going to refund everybody for the tickets, the dinner tickets, the entry tickets, and all the rest of it, some of the people, bless them, said, just keep it, because it's for charity. And one of the sponsors, because we have sponsors at the dinner now to pay for the things like the wine and the champagne reception and all that, said, keep my money. And we'd done some merchandise, so we put that on the website and sold that through the website. And considering there wasn't actually an event that year, we gave the hospice £1,000 because of some people saying keep me £12 ticket money, people buying £5 patches and £5 pin badges, and one of the sponsors saying keep me money. So even though there wasn't a show, the hospice got £1,000. And that kind of brought us to last year, which was the first one we did post-COVID. And we were really, really tight. People who paid for a VIP ticket normally get a goodie bag full of nice treats and stuff. We just gave them a pin badge. We explained, why. And those pin badges, we didn't even buy a backing card for it like we normally do. We just stuck it on an old backing card from the previous one, prior to COVID. We didn't have any international guests, so we didn't have any flights. What we wanted to do, because we'd only given them £1,000 in 2 years, was give them the most we could. And it was nearly £10,000, I think, 9,000 something. And then if you add into it, because we have large Munsterlander dogs and we always try to raise a bit for them, and that's done it through pre-orders, mostly. When you add in the money that we gave to large Munsterlander Rescue, we raised, over 10.
And the other charities.
Yeah, and because some of the costuming groups collect for their own charities, it was well over £10,000, which was great. And so this show that's coming up, we still want to give as much as we can to the charities, but we thought we also owe something to the fans who did their part during COVID and all that. So what we've done there is we've gone back to, if you buy a VIP ticket, you get the goodie bag with all the goodies inside it and all that kind of thing, as well as the patches that are for sale. At the event, we've done some special ones that say, I trooped the Star Wars Fan Fun Day 2023, which we will give to the costuming groups. It's just a small token, the £3 each, the things, in terms of cost. But it's just a little thank you to those costumers that you obviously know so well, and the groups who turn up every year, put so many smiles on so many faces, give the time free.
Yeah, I think I've definitely worn a costume there. Andrew's worn a costume there as well.
Oh yeah, I christened my Super Trooper there, didn't I? When Rob was still piecing it together for me the morning the morning it was getting ready with one of the smaller groups.
It sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does sound very familiar.
It does sound familiar. So this is the 15th year.
15th year, 13th event.
So I know that you were looking at the 10th being a big blowout one, and then you were gonna hang up your organising hat for, I don't know, for forever. Clearly, it's not happened, which is good, because I know we touched slightly on the family aspect of it in the name, which never was there, but it is a big family event.
It is a big family.
Is that what keeps you going?
It is, and also, just to rewind a bit so I can answer your question fully. At the 10th, you're right, I did stand up and say, look, this is going to be my last event. Or it might have been at the 9th, and I said next year will be my last event. And I'll tell you it was Chris Monk, bless him, who's no longer with us. Mm-hmm. He took me to one side at that dinner and said, listen, you can't stop doing this. And I said, and at the time, my mum wasn't very well and my wife wasn't very well. And he said, doesn't matter. You've got enough family, and Chris knows my family. You've got enough family and you've got enough friends who will step in and help you do this show. You cannot stop. And I said, well, okay, let's just get through this one, and then I'll have a think. And when I thought about it, he was right. I do it because I love it, and I do have enough friends and family to support me. And basically, it has become a big. It's not a big event. It's a big, small event, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. But it has.
It's a special event.
I think it is.
It is.
And I know that's a bit conceited, but I do think it's a very special event.
It is.
But, I don't often say this, but I just couldn't do it without Paul and the rest of the team. It would be impossible, and my family, it would be impossible to try and do it on my own.
So you've kept it going.
So we've kept it going.
Yeah. It has to keep going for me. We do several events around the UK. Sorry, up north. We do several events, but there's none got the soul of it. And I said to Neil several times, if this was for money, if this event was to earn money, it wouldn't work. Mm. You wouldn't have the same feeling about it. You wouldn't have the same. And I go up every year to the hospice and hand them the check over, and just you can see the difference it makes to them when you give them that check, and they don't mind whether it's 3,000, 6,000. The response is absolutely the same, and it just means a lot when you can do that.
But even from the fan perspective, just the people going to the event, it's you can get so close to the actors.
Yeah, what one of the things we say is it's like a lot of people have said it's like a mini celebration. Mm-hmm. Well, we'll touch about celebration after. It's like a mini celebration, but you can get close to the people. You can have that interaction with the guests, with the people you've seen, your heroes, whoever it is, but you can get that interaction with the guests that you've seen on screen. And I think that's one of the best parts of it. And especially in the meal, because at the meal you're guaranteed a Star Wars actor on your table. So you can see them when they're downtime, and you can see they're just people. And every single person has loved that meal. And there's no other event like it at UK, without a doubt.
One of the reasons we do a competition every year to win 2 tickets is because as soon as somebody wins and goes to that dinner once, they'll carry on going.
Yeah,
they buy tickets the next year.
Yeah, it is. The meal's amazing. that access to the actors. But I mean, it comes through in the event as well. You're never rushed. You can spend plenty of time there, and usually it's just down to people's courtesy, really. That if there's people waiting, they'll keep it briefer. But then they may even walk around and then come back.
Yeah,
If they're free.
yeah.
And that's pretty special.
But even some of the guests have never seen. I mean, Details last year, first event he ever did. He didn't know what to expect. He absolutely loved it, didn't he?
It almost spoils them
Yes.
for when they go on to
Yes.
other events and they're not quite like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
that's the uniqueness of the event, isn't it?
You think when we brought Taylor Gray over, I remember Taylor Gray, who plays Ezra Bridger in Rebels. We brought him home and he was stuck in customs for something like 5 hours, weren't he? And we picked him up and he was just an absolute delight. And I remember he's a massive football fan. He says to us, "Can you take us to a football match?" So we took him to Accrington Stanley, didn't we?
Well, I didn't, but
Well, yeah.
Accrington Stanley, who were they?
Exactly. But he said, "I've never experienced anything like this. This is someone who comes from all the big corporate events and has never done a show like that." And now we still talk to him now, and he says it's still the best show he's ever done
well,
because you do get that interaction.
yeah. Well, in fact, after the show, it's traditional for us to go back to my house, get a takeaway, and get drunk. Because we've pulled off another successful show. And Taylor Gray said, "What are you doing tonight?" And we said, "Well, we'll let you do what you want to do in the hotel," because there were other actors in there as well. And he said, no, I want to come to your house. I've heard it's great after the show. And he came back to our house.
And they've some of these people have never seen, and it does spoil them for other shows because they just don't get tracked like we do. You book an actor, and one of the first things they'll say is, "I need this, I need this, I need this."
But that's because it's not commercial, isn't it?
Yeah. And we just say
and
we
it comes
don't-
through. And it comes through when you attend as a fan. It comes through.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it does for them, the way they get looked after and the way. I mean, you're two fanboys anyway. So these are
Probably
not.
fan men is probably the more true.
But when you're meeting him, it must be exciting for you as well.
Oh yeah, there's still that buzz, and some of them come in early. So most of them, I meet them at the dinner because I'm setting up on the setup day, and we have some of the other team going to pick them up from airports and train stations and whatever. Some of them I meet at the dinner, but some of them come in early, and I get to go and have a beer or a meal with them the night before. And I still have to pinch myself sometimes, that I'm sat having a beer with whoever it may be that I watched on the big screen in my beloved franchise. I definitely have to pinch myself from time to time, that's for sure.
Now, you've had a lot of the old guard who I think I've met a lot of them at your event who've sadly passed on now. And that's just
It's a
fact of life.
surprising amount of people who's passed on now.
It is from the original
shocking,
trilogy.
yeah.
But it's 46, is it? 46, 47 years now? 46 years since
think
Star
it
Wars
is.
was released.
Yeah.
It's a long time, isn't it? Because they had to be adults, obviously, to be in it.
Yeah.
Apart from Wicket.
Well, you had people like the Diamond Brothers who were kids who played Jawas, and people like Derek Lyons who was just 18 when he played the medal bearer, and these are going to become the last people standing from those from the original anyway. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the big ones have gone, haven't they? Dave, Kenny, Carrie, Jeremy,
Peter.
yeah. I mean, all these big ones are bless them, are passing on. and there's just a few left. I mean, Mark Hamill allegedly is not well enough to sign, which is why he doesn't do any conventions anymore. Harrison Ford's just Harrison Ford, isn't he? He doesn't really like
He's just
conventions.
level, isn't he? But your headliners now are your Paul Blakes, your Greedos, your Mike Carters, Big Fortuna, people like that. But I mean, we're quite cagey how we look at guests because we try and book from everything. So we try original trilogy for the original trilogy fans. Then we'll try prequels because prequels now are becoming the new original trilogy. There's a lot of prequel love coming where people hated them a few years ago. Then we'll try and do the sequels. Then we'll try and do the animation, which is hard because a lot of the animation people are in the US. So we try to cover everything basis. And one discussion we have every single year is, I'm an autograph collector, so I want people to collect their autographs. But then Neil will go, well, people don't know who they are, so we need people like your Bib Fortuna, who the young ones can see. So we have many an interesting discussion on guest list, don't we?
So the new era Star Wars is helping you in a lot of respects with the guests that you want to invite.
Well, it kind of does, and it kind of doesn't. I know that's a bit of a non-answer, but obviously what it does do is provide lots of new opportunities for guests because there's, the new movies, then there's all the TV shows and the new animations and so on. But as Paul said, a lot of those are US-based. I know, Andor it was produced over here, but The Mandalorian is all produced in the States. And also, agents are grabbing these people, third stormtrooper from the left or the alien that walks past in the background for 10 seconds and saying, listen, I can get you 2,000 quid for going to a show and all that. And I the industry, which always makes me laugh because it's not an industry, but the event scene, if you want to call it that, has changed, and we have to change with it, as Paul constantly tells me, and he's right, and that's how it is now. But we have to budget accordingly, and it's not like the old days where I could just pick my phone up and say, to Jeremy Bullock, Boba Fett, or whoever, can you come? They just say yes or no.
Couple of £100 petrol, if that.
Yeah, and
now it's a couple of £1,000 flights.
Yeah, or the agents has told them they can get 45p a mile and all this kind of thing and blah blah blah. It's the world we live in. It's the world we live in, so we've got to adapt. But in our naivety back in the early days when we realised that the Star Wars Fan Fun Day was becoming a thing, we thought, why don't we try and get a big name? And I'm going back to maybe the third or fourth show, something like that. We got a price for Billy D. Williams, and it blew us away. We were like, well, we'd just never make that back on the door. However many people he attracted, we would just never be able to make it. And the same thing kind of applies now with because there is a hierarchy. Even lower down the tiers, you've got to pay money to get these people. And you've got to be careful that you don't overstretch yourself because, you might not sell enough tickets to cover it. And I've always said that if the show doesn't make money, I won't take the money from the evening, the fundraising part of the event, to cover those costs. I would do it, but I'll only do it once. And then we have to rethink what happens.
It's a fine line. Booking guests is an absolute fine line. You've got to get guests what people want to see, but you've got to look at the costs because it's you don't want to take the money away from the charity, but you don't want people who do all the events. It is a constant battle, but I think we've pulled it off again this year. We've got some great guests.
Well, I think that might be the perfect opportunity to tell us who's going to be attending this year. Have they all been announced? We're a few weeks away from the show, aren't we?
Never say never.
They haven't all been announced, but that's because we're still backwards and forwards trying to do some deals. But go ahead, you can talk about the ones that have been announced.
Well, one of the ones we've been after and I've never met, so I'm really excited. We've got Orla Shoshan, which is Shaq T, which I have never ever met, which I think's an amazing guest coming all the way from Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Very rare.
Paul made me laugh. He said, we need to be careful on whose table we put it, because if you get her on a table with a load of like lads, fanboys, they might just, be a bit too much for her. I said, I think she'll be okay. She's ex-special forces.
Yeah. So we've got Elsa Berg, which played a Manaman, which a lot of people won't actually know, but she actually ran all the Doctor Who creatures.
Oh, really?
So she's massive in the Doctor Who world. We've got Philip Herbert, who was Ermiudel in Jabba's Palace. We've got the amazing Femi Taylor, who just doesn't get any older.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what she does, but she's incredible. We've also got, now I'm going. We've got, who have we got, Nez? Who else have we got?
Well, I'll help you out because I've got them on my phone here. We've got Jerome Blake, who plays a multitude of characters throughout the prequels, but perhaps best known for Massa Meda in the Senate scenes. One that I'm particularly pleased about getting, because I just stalked him on Twitter until he eventually caved in and said he'd come, is Michael Gibson, who's a very small part, but he's a very well-known actor in lots of things on TV. But in The Last Jedi, which is my favourite Star Wars movie, controversially I know, but it is.
Out of all of them.
Yeah.
It's never out.
He plays Kylo Ren's shuttle pilot and has that quite amusing line where he says, yes, sir, whatever, when he starts, firing at Luke. We've got Harley Durst.
Who's Moloch.
Who plays Moloch in Solo. Daniel Egan, who is a Death Trooper, and I just thought that would be cool for the poster because we've never had a Death Trooper at the show before. We've got a guy called Andrew Havel, who's a First Order officer in the sequels. And then we've got Hazel Lith. Now, I don't know if you know who Hazel Lith is. She's a tourist in Andor. Now, do you remember the band we've had at the dinner a few times, Blues Harvest?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know Andy Lith, the drummer?
I think I can see there's a connection here.
It's his mum. And
Really?
you can imagine how absolutely over the moon he was. Because she does extra work, and often they don't know what they're going to. It's the coded names and all that. And when she came home from that day's work, she said to him, I'm in Star Wars, and he was absolutely over the moon. Now,
But luckily with that, she's just got the most amazing close-up photo you could ever think of.
yeah, there's an extreme close-up of her. She's a featured extra, is what you would call it in TV terms. But there's an extreme close-up of her, so there's a great photograph of her that she can sign. Now, this was going to be her first show, but the Boonta Eve event that's kind of becoming this tradition the night before celebration, I got kind of involved in assisting finding guests, and they asked if she could do it, and I just said, yeah, I think she'd be a great guest for you. And, you know, apart, because that's a very small number of 250 people that get into that event. So apart from that small number of people, the Fan Fun Day is still kind of a first signing event. And then one that is a real good one in terms of...
There's a lot here.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of guests coming.
Yeah, well, there's not as many as last year. But Dave Barkley, who is one of the puppeteers that was inside Jabba, you often see, you know, Mike Edmonds, who was operating the tail, John Coppinger, it was the eyes, Toby Philpott, whatever he was, the left arm or the right arm or whatever, and Dave was the guy doing the other arm. But you don't see him at UK shows very often, so that's quite a coup for us.
Well, he lives in States, but luckily he messaged me and said, I'm in the UK at the time. And they were like, booked.
Yeah,
Booked.
You don't turn someone like that away.
no.
So it's
there's a
a
good
great
mix there.
guest list, and it's we're trying to cover everything. So yeah, I'm quite pleased. I think we've done a good job.
Yeah, I think we've done a good job. As Paul said, you know, we have these discussions, and I understand that for the graphers, you need someone that's difficult, you know, a rare signer like Ailsa Burke or Philip Herbert. But also, you know, as Paul was saying earlier, the passive Star Wars fans, the families that may be thinking about coming, if you say, you know, they've got the person that plays a man, they're kind of like, who's that? You know, or Hermie Oodler, well, I don't even know who that is. But if you've got Oola or Shaq T, or, you know, the ones in the past like Nyan Gnome and character Admiral Akbar, then they might be interested because they know who that is.
So we're a few weeks away. How do people get tickets for this?
The online store is open until the week before the event, so it's open until the 7th of May. Okay. And the online store is at www.swffd.co.uk. So it's the initials of Star Wars Fan Fun Day, swffd.co.uk.
Okay, I would definitely recommend anybody who's interested in Star Wars to visit, because it's a great event, especially after we've just come off the back of Celebration, which it was good, but I don't think it was the event that made it good. I think it was the people attending
Absolutely
that made it.
And the best thing about the Fan Fun Day is it's a family-orientated event. It's somewhere where you can bring your kids on a Sunday afternoon.
It's not too packed.
You don't have to have a professional costume. I personally love seeing the kids who's spent the night with their parents making something.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a great, fan-friendly event for everybody, and everybody's welcome.
Plenty of toys.
Plenty of toys.
Yeah, we've got one of the criticisms of last year's show is we didn't have enough stalls selling vintage Star Wars toys for the vintage collectors. So we've got a couple of vintage stalls this time.
Okay. But there were plenty of vendors last time.
Oh yeah, we've got the same number of vendors, but we've got a better mix so that we've got, you know, modern stuff, old stuff, art, as well as toys and other merchandise.
Okay. And this is taking place at Ewood Park.
Ewood Park on the 14th of May.
So I would definitely recommend. I wouldn't even say if you're local. I would say if you can travel there, then
Well,
We have people
then make the effort.
we have people attending from Sweden, Denmark, the USA, and 2 people from Australia. So when I get comments on Facebook like, "Oh, I'd like to come to this, but I
It's
live
a
in
bit too far
Birmingham,"
to
I'm
travel.
like, "Come on, make the effort." There's 2 guys coming from Australia.
So how have they found out about the event? Have they been previously, or have they been told about it?
One of them has been previously. One of them I met at the first Anaheim celebration, and he and I sat having a few beers with Dickie Beer, the stuntman, and I told him all about the event, and then he said, well, I'll see if I can make it. And I get it, it's a lot of money to travel to the UK from Australia. And I messaged him, are you coming? And then, well, I can't really afford it. And then the one that was cancelled for COVID, he was going to come, but obviously that got cancelled. And this year, he's an original trilogy man. And I think that Ailsa Burke and Philip Herbert kind of tipped him over the edge, and he went, I'm coming.
But it's a great event. We've been attending for many years now. I can't even think back. Probably
I would say
12, 13 years.
I was going to say it's either 13 or 12 years.
Yeah, I think it's 13. But I think we missed the first one. And then from the costuming groups, there was a big buzz about, this event's coming up. You need to get on it. It's a great event. So that's how I was introduced to it. And it is a very special event. It's not like a Comic-Con. It's just so much more, I don't know, down to earth and welcoming, really. And I can see why the family thing gets pushed in there, because it's great for families. And the kids absolutely have a great time.
Yeah. Yeah, well, when we plan the thing, we make sure that there's stuff, for the graphers, for the toy collectors, but also for the kids, because, it isn't just about meeting the actors, and half the kids don't want to meet the actors, because if you point at the guy who played Darth Vader and go, that's Darth Vader, they go, no, it's not. If you point at the costumer who's dressed as Darth Vader, then that's Darth Vader to a child. And then we have, one of the costuming groups, the 99th, do Shoot a Trooper, and the kids absolutely love it, firing Nerf darts at people in armour. Mm-hmm. They have a great time.
Yeah, I think my boys both enjoyed that when they were a bit younger. But they're getting a bit older now. They'll be looking at the other aspects of the event now.
Yeah.
But also don't underestimate, the support we get off people like you. You come to the event every day, you have a massive stand, which is just incredible. And you offer us you donate a helmet every year.
Yeah, we're very grateful
which
for that.
Raises a lot of money for the hospice. So, so again, we can only do so much, but it's also with people like yourselves and the support we get from people around us that we can do it. So,
Good point.
This type of event, though, you have to support, because we need more like that. And it's unique. There are not more like that. This is a special event. And you two as well, the personalities behind it. The way...
We've got personalities, Nez.
Great.
How welcoming you guys are and open to talk about stuff. It's
just because we love it, and it means that much.
Well, that's it. You can see...
And it means that much to us.
The passion comes through, and I think you can see it in the event. And the fact that it's not commercial, I think, is the thing that sets it out as being special. Because
Absolutely.
We put much more into this than we do any of our wonky rocket events, which are the commercial ones, the one that we make money from. We put much more into this, and every decision is carefully thought through and argued sometimes through, so that we make the maximum money for the
I always say the Star Wars Fan Fun Day cost me between £500 and £1,000 a year, because we don't take petrol money. Half of the prizes, me and Neil have this thing. He'll ring me up and he'll go, "Oh, I've just got this amazing new toy," and I go, "You got that a couple of weeks ago, right? That's now going in the box for the Fan Fun Day," and I do exactly the same. So half of the charity donation prizes are what me and him can't actually remember that we bought.
Oh, when you're buying the doubles on the...
or drunk ordering or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Drunk ordering. It's the best ordering, isn't it?
It's the best. So, like I said, I'll say it costs us about £500 to £1,000 a year.
Yeah, I would say the same. You know, things like if I've bought something like Paul says, if I've bought it twice, that goes in. Or if I've bought a collection to move on and, you know, try and finance my own collection a bit and something's not moving, that gets donated. Plus, if I look at the box, my conservatory looks like a shop just before the fan fund day, like it does at the minute. And if I look at the box of prizes and think, well, that's not enough, I go out and buy some. You know, find a shop like the Entertainer or something that's got figures at a £5 or whatever, and I buy a couple of £100 worth and stick them in the box because I want the kids to be able to win nice prizes on the tombola that raises the money for the hospice. So you know, whereas the Wonky Rocket events make us money, as Paul said, this one actually costs us money, but we love it.
It shows, and people enjoy it. You need to keep going.
Can I ask, is there any way that people can donate prizes if they've got something they want to give away?
Absolutely. If anybody wants to donate any prizes, whether it's for the raffle at the dinner or the tombola at the event, they can just drop me a line. It's Star Wars Fan Fun Day at AOL.com.
Or just message the page.
Or just message the Facebook page or the Twitter account, and we'll gladly accept donations.
AOL.com. I've not heard that for a while.
He gives me loads of grief about it because mine is at AOL.com. I just did it back in the day when it was a thing and never changed. And I don't know why people laugh at it so much because there's no difference between at AOL.com and at gmail.com, which seems to be everybody else's.
Because people don't actually believe it's still going.
No. Is it still going?
America Online, yeah.
I didn't know that. Shows how long the event's been going, doesn't it?
You could say old-fashioned. I'm going to say old school. It's different. It's cooler.
Retro.
Retro, yeah.
People will be listening to this thinking, I need to go out and get myself an AOL email address now.
Yep. So they can be cool like me.
So the event's coming up, and you've also got another event which is in Stockport, which is obviously quite interesting to us. And you do other events as well. Do you still do one in Preston? And
we do Preston Comic Con, we do Blackburn Comic Con, we do Carlisle Comic Con, which we've just done a couple of months ago, and now we're going to do Stockport Comic Con. We'll try Stockport now to bring the Wonky Rocket events to Stockport.
But that's nice and local for us, so we'll definitely be showing up and getting involved in that one.
He said definitely, Nez.
So it must be true, yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We just try and bring it to towns where, I mean, it's like you look at Carlisle, and I was just saying earlier, you know, there's nothing in Carlisle, and we went to
that's a bit of a trek for you, isn't it? That one,
but
It's only an hour and a half.
But it's genius because it's on the border of Scotland, it's on the border of England, so you get people dropping down and people coming up, and there's nothing about it. There's nothing about there, and it's the only council that we've worked with that said, yes, you can put banners up. Yes, you can do this. You want some help? Yes, not financial, because we don't need financial help. It's just promoting it. And Carlisle is the only council that's ever done that for us. And they absolutely love it. And the venue is just beautiful, isn't it?
It's my favourite event that we do. Of the Wonky Rocket ones, obviously, the Star Wars Fan Fun Day is my favourite event because I'm a Star Wars fan. But Carlisle is my favourite Wonky Rocket one so far. So Stockport, the guy who used to deal with that, the Guildhall in Preston, is now the commercial manager for Edgeley Park.
all right, yeah, Stockport County.
And so he said, why don't you come and have a look at these rooms? And we did, and we loved them, and we thrashed out a deal on venue hire. and we're in the midst of and when I say we, it's mostly Paul, is in the midst of booking guests for that event. So we've only announced one so far. We've got some comic artists announced, but in terms of media guests, we've just announced Michael Carter, Bib Fortuna. Always goes down well wherever he goes.
And now House of Dragons.
Yes, he's in House of Dragons for about 10 seconds.
And the cons are different from the Family Fun Day in that they're more rounded in the pop culture. It's not Star Wars centric.
No, they're not Star Wars centric, but because we know so many people from the world of Star Wars, there will always be Star Wars guests there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, you know, Comic Con used to mean a place where people who collected comics met and sold and traded and whatever comics. But now the term Comic Con just means a pop culture event.
Yeah.
So yeah, these are different kind of events to the Star Wars Fan Fun Day because, as you say, there are all the different franchises. You know, Doctor Who, Ghostbusters, whatever it may be, whoever we can get guests from.
Okay, and that's coming up at the end of July, so that'll be one to watch for sure. I'm sure we'll be talking about that.
Yes,
nearer to the time.
30th of July,
Yeah.
Edgeley Park.
We'll put links to both of the events below the video and podcast, and I don't know how all that works, but Clarky will sort it.
Yeah, we could never work that out. could we?
No,
Clarky will sort all that out.
great.
That's what he does. So thanks for coming in. I mean, it's a fantastic event. I cannot wait for it again. We always seem to be meeting up and chatting about these just before the event. What have we got? 6? Is it 5 weeks?
3
weeks.
It's 3 weeks on Sunday.
Wow. That's coming up fast, isn't
Wow,
it?
is it? I didn't realise it that quick.
Yeah. We originally we've always tried to do it the nearest bank holiday to May the 4th for obvious reasons. But at Blackburn it seems to work better on a Sunday, so we were going to go for Sunday the 8th, but it's the coronation weekend.
Yeah, I think something's happening that weekend. Isn't it?
Yeah, and so people wouldn't travel on the Saturday. They would want to attend the street parties at home and watch the coronation on telly or whatever. And the actors, you know, and whatever.
Or go to London to protest, maybe.
Yeah. And so we moved it to the week after, which is why it's the 14th of May.
Yeah, which is a bit different. Usually it is that first weekend, isn't it, in May?
Yeah.
Around Star Wars Day.
Yeah.
Gives you an extra week to organise, though, I guess.
Yeah.
So we will be there. I think Clark is going to bring some cameras down, and we were talking earlier about something we might do that's a bit different for that event as well. First time for us.
Yeah.
But we'll see about. We won't go into it yet because we need to iron it out.
Yeah, we
don't we?
do.
But yeah, I think
I'm excited.
I think we're thinking of doing something a little bit different and gauging the fans, because I mean I've been in this making props for a long time, but I mean I'm a Star Wars fan at the end of the day, and I love talking about Star Wars. I know we disagree a little on where Star Wars is,
But that's great. And how boring would conversations be if I went, I love The Last Jedi, and you went, so do I?
yeah. Plus it gives me a chance to vent,
Yeah.
because my brother likes it, and Dan Shudlick over in Germany, he loves the new Star Wars, although he's less so on the TV at the moment for some reason. I don't know why.
If you want my opinion on the TV, it's inconsistent. The Mandalorian's had some incredible Star Wars moments and Mandalorian moments, and then some really, really low moments. For me, the best TV show, hands down, was Obi-Wan.
Really? Controversial.
Yeah, I'd agree with him on that. It was outstanding.
Really good.
So, but it's good that all fans can find something in the Star Wars universe that they like. I hate calling it a franchise.
We've even had people at our events that's never ever seen the original trilogy.
Yeah.
That's a crying shame, isn't it?
I remember talking to some guys at Celebration Essen in Germany who have said just that. They had gone to that celebration because of Clone Wars. They were fans of the animation and had never seen a Star Wars film.
See, that's my son. He's a huge fan of Clone Wars cartoon. And that's his Star Wars.
And if you want to feel old, Clone Wars is 20 years old.
The animation?
20 years old.
Wow. Already?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. They're actually doing figures. You know, they're doing 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi. They're doing action figures.
So this is
20th anniversary
This is
of Clone Wars.
the 20th anniversary of the animated movie.
Yeah.
Really? It can't be.
It is.
Really? It can't be.
But it is.
My God.
Frightening.
We're only 3 years off, or 4, is it maybe, the 50th anniversary of Star Wars.
Yeah, that's
Crazy.
madness, isn't it?
I think that's
Thankfully.
going to have made almost everyone watching or listening to this feel pretty old. No matter where they are as a Star Wars fan, those two dates are going to make them feel old.
Yeah.
When did the prequel come out? When did Phantom Menace come out?
99.
99, yeah.
Well, you look at that.
So next year will be the 25th anniversary of The Phantom Menace.
Time's just flying, isn't it?
I can remember it as if it were yesterday going to see that. You know, palpitations, all at racing. Are they going to get it right? Are they going to mess it up?
See, I didn't think anything like that. I just assumed it was going to be epic. It had some epic moments.
And how do you feel about it now, 24 years on?
Better. I didn't really hate it though. I wasn't a hater of it. It wasn't as good as the original ones. But it had Darth Maul. And that was a masterstroke, that double-ended lightsaber.
I've watched lots of stuff, as I'm sure you have, and I know you have, online about, you know, people discussing like we are now.
Phantom Menace.
But the best thing I listened to was some guy on TikTok who was saying what happened was George Lucas made some kids' films for kids in the 70s and 80s. And then he went and made some films for kids in the 90s and 2000s. And you weren't a kid anymore. So the film wasn't aimed at you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you didn't like it, tough.
Yeah, but I wasn't a kid when I watched Toy Story, but I could take something away from it.
Ooh, I like that.
Oh, you must have taken something away from the prequels.
It was, yeah, it had some good moments.
Darth Maul is just an incredible character.
And the music.
Yeah.
See, Phantom Menace is actually my favourite of the prequels. I know lots of people go with Revenge of the Sith because it's slightly darker, but that's because they're adults.
It's a bit rushed, though, Revenge of the Sith.
I don't think I could argue with you, but
I think he needed more time to turn bad.
I understand the argument that I've seen a few times that Revenge of the Sith should have been the first one, and then you kind of saw what happened to Anakin after Revenge of the Sith in the next two movies. I kind of get that. That would be very interesting. But Revenge of the Sith's got the best opening of any Star Wars film. I love that bit with the drums of war and the two speeders and the battle over Coruscant. I think it's incredible. Mm-hmm. And then it goes downhill from there for me.
But yeah, the prequels, I think people are appreciating them a bit more now. But is that at the expense of the sequels?
My take on it is this thing, whether you were a child or almost an adult like me, when you saw Star Wars, it's been in your psyche for, well, 40 odd years now, but at the time that the prequels came out, 20 odd years. And these were new films that you'd only watched once. You hadn't made your own adventures up, like we were saying earlier, with the toys and all that. Or if you didn't play with the toys like me, read incessantly, magazines and Splinter of the Mind's Eye and all these, Han Solo books and all that kind of thing. And they were new, and now they have been in our psyche 20 odd years, so they're kind of getting the love that they deserve.
So you think the sequels are going to get there?
Well,
I think they will eventually, yeah.
I'll probably not be around to find out because I'll be long gone by then. But I actually think they may, yeah.
I think I'll be spinning in my grave if that's happening.
Do you not think, though, that the sequels will get lost in this? So it's this universe.
Cesspit is the word you're looking for.
I'm trying to be diplomatic, but because we've got the original trilogy and then 20 odd years later, the prequels, and then another 20 odd years later, this 10 to 20 years later, this new Star Wars, which is just snowballed and snowballed and snowballed to be as much as happened in the last decade as it has. It's going to be hard to, we've got definitive times of the original trilogy and the prequels to pick it apart or start to love it over decades, whereas now it's like in 10 years we're not going to remember.
Because there's so much.
Yeah.
Well, the only it's a good point you make. That's the first thing to say. The only comparison I can make, and I'm not a fan and I don't watch it all, is Star Trek. And that had animated series and TV shows, and then movies, and then back to TV and all that. And that endures, and that still goes on. And, people are raving about this latest season of Picard, which I haven't watched. I'm not really a Star Wars fan. But I make the comparison.
Star Trek fan.
Star Trek fan.
That's a brilliant soundbite there.
Yeah, please don't take it. The reason I make the comparison is that endures, and people are still huge fans and collect, and the toys are coming out and other merchandise and all that. And I think the same thing will apply to Star Wars. And maybe, just maybe, when we look back, the best thing about Celebration London may have been the announcement of some movies. Because the TV shows are well and good and all that, but we really need some films.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting, isn't it, that Kathleen Kennedy said, we're looking at the past, the present and the future. And so you've got this movie where it's going to be about Jedi's discovering the Force. Then you've got the present one, which is Filoni's film, which supposedly ties up all the TV shows. And then this one, Lover or Hater, where Rey starts the new Jedi Order. And I know that many people who have read, the expanded universe books and that, it's Luke who starts the new Jedi Order. But you've two options there, haven't you? You either bring in the guy who's 64 years old and try and get him to play, somebody who's setting up a new Jedi Order, or you use the deep fake technology throughout a full film, which wouldn't work for me. Or you use one of the characters from the sequels, which they've done.
So this is what I think they should have done. And if they had have announced it, I would have hated it. But now, when we look at what we've been given, I think they should have just remade it. They should just remade the original trilogy, started afresh with all the new actors, and
Oh no!
and then I could have kept it separate.
No.
No.
There are some people that argue that that's what the sequels are.
It'd be like rewriting the Bible.
Yeah, they should have just started again.
So
With a new generation and just said, "This is your Star Wars."
Pretty much that's what they did.
But that's the way I
Yeah, but if
remember.
it had been wrapped up as a remake, and then he could
As a
have just put
reboot.
some little tweaks and stuff, I think I would have been a lot happier with it.
I remember it being referred to as karaoke cinema, which I didn't quite get at the time watching The Force Awakens, but then objectively, it is a loose storyline, and it's like me getting up on stage and singing Suspicious Minds. You're going to know what it is, but you're not necessarily going to enjoy it.
I understand the parallel. I guess I'm one of those fans who likes almost everything that has that Star Wars label on it, or at least something of it, you know.
Apart from Andor.
See, I love Andor.
I loved Andor as well.
I just couldn't get on with it. There are literally episodes of Andor where nothing happens. There is no character development. There is no plot movement. Nothing makes the story go forward. And some of the subplots were just inane and pointless. Mon Mothma's husband being a bit of a knob. What's the point in
I
that?
thought that was quite interesting.
Nothing happened. He didn't do anything really bad or anything like that.
Spoilers.
and then this business. Well, here comes another spoiler.
Yeah, but he was a
This
sympathiser.
one way out,
wanted-
one way out, one way out, and they get the guy on side, and he breaks out with them. Then he can't swim and doesn't go anywhere. What?
Well, maybe he did.
I don't think he did. I have to say that one of my favourite badges I got given at the celebration was it called Narkina, that planet? Narkina Swimming Club, 1,000 metres. Which I love the inventiveness of swag at celebration. But no, Andor wasn't for me. Even the action-packed season finale couldn't save that series.
So you were more of a Kenobi fan.
Loved it.
I was more of an Andor fan. Who's gonna own up to
Win
being
if we
a
have a
Book of-
fight.
No, who's gonna own up to being the Book of Boba Fett fan?
Please. It's dreadful.
Don't even start me on. How can you get? I'm a Fett fan. That's me. I'm a Fett fan. Fett is amazing. But how can you take a character like that and totally destroy everything that was amazing with him? This guy's walking around with rocket launchers and it might as well just be the Fennec Shan show. Why have an helmet like that? Which was what the Mandalorian, and it was never on.
But then, weirdly, one of the things I don't like about the Mandalorian is the fact that it's never off.
He's not the best looking bloke in the world, although there's a lot of women who disagree with me. I know he's hot, but
Burt Reynolds has got a lot of fans.
They just got this mysterious character who we didn't really know about, and then just totally ripped everything that was amazing about him. Anything that was.
But he was exciting in the Mandalorian season 2. When he was in the shadows and he didn't have the armor and stuff, and you saw him and you were like, "Oh my god, he's back!"
Yeah.
But then
they made him, I'm going to rule by respect and not fear and all that. And it's like, well, that's not Boba Fett, is it? No. And to be fair, and I know this is controversial, he wasn't that great in the movies, was he? He dies like a blooming for a start.
okay, cut.
Yeah. We're done.
Yeah, but I mean, we know that there was reasons for that, and it was all about the pacing of Return of the Jedi.
Well, I mean, it was still mysterious. It was still like.
They took away the mystery, and they're doing a lot of that. Like things when you look strong enough to pull the ears off a Gundork. Leave that to my imagination. I don't need to see what a Gundork looks like in the Clone Wars.
With its ears being pulled off.
But whether it's ears are pulled off or not, I don't need to see what it looks like. It's best left to the imagination. And there are other things, are we going to find out in one of the animations or one of Filoni's shows what a moof milker is or whatever?
It's Paul, isn't it?
I need to Google that now. A moof milker.
Han Solo refers to someone as a moof milker in your favourite movie, The Force Awakens.
Oh, right.
If you type if you type moof into Google, it just automatically comes up with moof milker. And a moof was a creature of the galaxy that had hoofed feet, a thick hide, and secreted milk. Moof milk could be used to make yogurt. There were individuals who milked moofs, which inspired the term moof milker.
Milker.
Is that not a milk? I can't even say it. A milf mooker.
A MILF.
A moof mooker.
MILF milker.
A moof.
MILF milker.
That's a whole different podcast.
So yeah, is that? What does?
Is that
what's
not the one on
messing
the
about
side?
with?
Yeah, on the side of the.
No, that's called something like a thalasso siren or something.
Yeah, but is that not?
No,
One of
otherwise it'd be called a moof. It's not rocket science, doesn't it?
Oh, sorry.
So yeah, it's interesting where it's going. I just want some quality Star Wars.
That's it. I'd rather them do less but quality.
But for me, Star Wars should be pushing the boundaries of. I mean, all right, we didn't really appreciate the green screens, but at the time, CGI was new and they were pushing that, and that that's why George came back to do something new. And it should be breaking ground, Star Wars, for me, and not just being a TV show, which is very hit and miss.
I understand that point, and I would find it difficult to argue with you. I'm enjoying the content, and then again, I'm not, because, as Paul's just alluded to, if you make too much of it, it's I'd rather have, as Paul says, quality than quantity. At the minute, we seem to be getting quantity, don't we? Mm-hmm. And it's clear that in all of them, whether you like them or you don't, it's clear that there are filler episodes in every series.
So we've got a sequel. We've got the sequel trilogy, and then I think in years to come, we're going to have the Disney Plus era. I think things will change, though. I can't see them. But I don't think they can sustain it, because I don't think there are enough fans that want to subscribe to Disney Plus to see the sort of shows they're putting out because of the inconsistency. I think you nailed it.
I think that what they thought when Disney purchased Lucasfilm and therefore Star Wars, I think they thought they could turn one out or two out every year, like Marvel movies. Mm-hmm. And it soon became apparent to them that they couldn't. And so, for whatever reason best known to Lucasfilm, they headed for TV. I think TV was always part of the plan, even when George was the head of Lucasfilm. But they kind of just went down that route of TV, which is all good and that. There are some good bits. But it's left me, certainly, and I know a lot of other fans that I've spoken to, saying, come on, let's have a movie. Even people who don't like The Last Jedi have been saying, well, even if it's Rian Johnson, give us some blooming movies.
I don't know about that.
I don't know
about that.
No.
See, I think he's an absolute genius filmmaker. Glass Onion, Knives Out, Last Jedi, Looper, Brick, every single one of them's a gem.
I'm struggling.
That killed the conversation.
I'm struggling.
Knives Out were incredible. Glass Onion was good. Last Jedi was shocking.
They're obviously just clearly meant for intellects like me.
I am struggling with it. But it's not just that. Maybe if he'd have made all three of them, maybe that would have worked.
Now, there's a great point, and Paul and I have had lots of conversations because, as you've gathered, he doesn't like Last Jedi, and I do.
Oh, yeah. You're going to tell the script story now, aren't
No,
you?
I'm not. What I'm going to talk about is people say, don't they, that Rian Johnson misused Luke. Firstly, I would say go and watch A New Hope again, because he plays himself just as he did in A New Hope. He whinges all the way through A New Hope. That's all he ever does. I wanted to go to Touchy State and all that. and he whinges in Last Jedi. For me, it's J.J. Abrams who misuses Luke because, first of all, he's only in the first one for 5 seconds at the end, and he's in Rise of Skywalker for just a little bit more than that, maybe 30 seconds. He doesn't use him at all. And for me, he's also a one-trick pony. The plot of Force Awakens is we need to find a map so we can find Luke Skywalker. And the plot of Rise of Skywalker is we need to find a wayfinder, another word for map, to find the Emperor. It's the same movie. And
But it's
for
okay.
me,
But it's okay for him to build characters up, and then Ryan Johnson go, "Doesn't matter. Who's Snoke? Doesn't matter. He's dead."
But we've had this conversation
Doesn't matter.
loads
Dead.
of times. He doesn't like the fact that Snoke was introduced in one film and killed off in the next. But when I put to him, but in the original trilogy, the Emperor was introduced in Empire Strikes Back and killed off in Return of the Jedi, exactly the same, that's fine.
Yeah, it completed the arc though, didn't it?
Yeah, that's the difference.
So does that. The story group were always going to bring back the Emperor, or Palpatine as we now know him. Colin Trevorrow's script, which is online, you can read it. Some people think it's better than J.J. Abrams. I'm not going to comment whether I do or not. It doesn't matter because it didn't get made. But
So it's irrelevant.
He was always going to bring back the Emperor. They were always going to do that, and in order to do that, you have to kill off Snoke.
Yeah, could have done it better though, couldn't they?
Could have done it a lot better.
The Emperor could have killed him off. in
But
the
what
last movie.
I will say, it's got one of the best ship fight scenes ever. That dreadnought scene is outstanding.
But it's funny when you were talking about Star Trek before. I didn't mention it, but I should have done. I'm not a fan of Star Trek. It's too slow, and I was a kid, and it's too adult probably for me. So I never really got into it. But when JJ remade Star Trek, I went and watched that, and I thought, this is really good. I really enjoyed it. But then afterwards, I came out, and I kind of thought, that wasn't Star Trek. I loved it. And then I thought, if he can do this to Star Trek, what's he going to do to Star Wars?
I honestly believe that of the whether you like me and you think it's a cinematic masterpiece, the cinematography in it is easily the best in any Star Wars film. But whether you think that or not, it is certainly the best of the 3 sequels. As I've said, J.J.
Which one's this? The last one?
No, the middle one.
The middle one?
Yeah,
The Ryan Johnson one?
yeah.
No. So the first one.
I don't know. It's pretty irrelevant. It's pretty irrelevant because the first movie, The Force Awakens, that just killed it for me. Just splitting all the main cast up.
Yeah, so I like Force Awakens.
Again, another mistake from J.J. Abrams. No, everybody seems to talk about what Ryan Johnson did wrong, but not J.J. Abrams. And you're right. What we all wanted to see was Luke, Leia, and Han
And
together.
Chewie.
And Chewie together, and he didn't do it.
That's what we should have seen. And then they could have introduced new characters, passed the baton on to them, and they could have gone off on their adventure. And
But I
they
think-
could have moved it all over to a new generation, and I would have been happy with
I
that.
think that's what they expected in the second movie. Took ages to find Luke. Luke's in the last, and then he's in the next movie.
He was in the next movie.
But
Well, he was.
Not great, were
He was exactly the correct character.
he? No.
He was. Go and watch A New Hope again. He whinges all the way through it.
yeah, but he was a young man then. He was like teenager almost.
And
They're grumpy, aren't they?
He wasn't the.
and old men are not.
No, clearly. Look,
He wasn't. He wasn't the Jedi Master Luke Skywalker then, were he?
What I think, and we've talked about this, like I said, long and often. What I think it suffers from is the fandom menace of basically it didn't go how I wanted it to. That the fans going, well, it should have
Quite
gone this
possibly.
way. It
Quite
should have been
possibly.
this. It should have been that. Well, it wasn't, and you weren't in charge of it. He was, and that's what he made. If you don't like it, tough.
Yeah, it's just a shame that you pay your money to see it, and then you realise, you can't take it back. Then that's a shame, because if you could, then then the box office would be interesting.
That's a very interesting point you raised there, and I was reading an article about this online. Same goes for Disney Plus. You've already paid your subscription. You click to watch The Mandalorian or Book of Boba Fett or Obi-Wan or whatever it is, and because it's Star Wars, we all watch it. What they don't get from it, so you can imagine them all going, well, that's a roaring success, that Book of Boba Fett. Look how many people click to watch it. What they don't get from us is feedback. Well,
Just to jump in on this one, sorry, the boring side of it is, though, Netflix, as an example, is a data mining company. They're not a film production company. They are data mining. And Disney Plus have took the same approach. So they're not necessarily getting the feedback, but use me as an example. They'll know I started The Mandalorian, maybe got 1 or 2 episodes into it, turned it off because I didn't like it. Then when the second one came out, they obviously don't know the backstory, but I went back to it because people were like, you need to stick with it. So I went back and watched all of season 1 in one short go. Gone to season 2, same thing happened, got a few into it and turned it off. So they'll be able to know that, for example, my profile is a bloke in his 40s who pays the bill, he's the main account holder, and he's turning off at these points. And that's all they're interested in. They want to see where you turn that off. And that is better feedback than anything, apart from if they listen to this podcast.
But
I need to say, I can't not watch it.
Yes, I think you're a minority. I think the vast majority of us actually watch it every week, every episode, hoping it's going to get better, like I did with Andor. He gave up on Andor, but I kept going, thinking, well, maybe something will happen. And I think the vast majority of people are watching it all the way through. And if you take Rob's example of the movie, you've paid your money, you go in, there's no feedback there whatsoever, except loads of people came to see The Rise of Skywalker, so it's a huge success. Or The Last Jedi outsold Force Awakens. So it will go down as, whether you like it or not, it will go down as a massive success. And the people at Lucasfilm, that's what they're interested in, money. And if it makes more money than the last film, job done.
But with regards to like Disney Plus, so you think most fans are just going to watch everything regardless?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I from the people I know that I talk to about it, a lot of them are in the same mindset as me. So they'll give something a try, but if it doesn't grab them, they turn it off and they're done with it until the next TV show comes around.
Not Star Wars, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, I'm talking.
I do that with so many shows.
On Netflix, I watch something. If I don't like it, I don't carry on watching. I get that. But Star Wars, I will watch every single thing they put in front of me.
Yes, yeah, I won't. If it doesn't grab me, because I haven't watched. I think I watched the first episode of the Book of Boba. I thought it was awful. I couldn't stand the fact he came out, haven't put on weight, and had his teeth done out the sarlacc bit.
His teeth are amazing, though.
They are. I'd love his teeth, but
They're sarlacc teeth.
They're sarlacc teeth.
But just here's a thing that I quoted a number of times, right? Because and I'll come back to the teeth and weight thing because it applies to the same thing. When I went to see Return of the Jedi with a friend of mine who wasn't a Star Wars fan, I'd seen it once and I went back and this guy came with me. You know the bit where Luke anchors on the speeder bike to get behind the 2 biker scouts and take them out?
Yeah.
My mate went, that were a bit far-fetched. And I went, what, just that bit? Not the spaceships and the aliens, no, just that he anchored on and went behind them. And he went, well, yeah. And I see the same thing. You know, people who said, like, that Leia pulling herself back to the ship, that were a bit silly, a bit far-fetched. Or that's a bit far-fetched that ships can run out of fuel. What, just that bit? Not all the other stuff. And if you can suspend belief for all the other stuff, surely you can suspend belief that this actor's 20 years older than he was when he played Django Fett, and he's put a bit of weight on and he's had his teeth done. You know what I'm saying?
but there are
Sometimes
ways- there
we're
are ways around
overcritical
it, though.
when we should just be taking it in as it's bloody fiction.
But imagine how good Booker Bob. I mean, the title Booker Bob. Oh, it's his storybook. He could have been a fat old man sat there saying, "Oh, remember this time."
Yes,
And
I understand.
And then you've got a body double in the suit. Don't have to take the helmet off. If he does, you can deep fake it. You could have done anything.
Yeah, no, I
You could have
understand.
even done an episode.
Don't take the helmet off.
You could have even done an episode that was animated.
No, I
could have done anything.
I get it all. I get all of your points. You know,
I don't even know what we got. What was it? What was it?
Well, exactly, I don't know. But you know, Paul is right. They ruined that character that had all that mystique around him and all that. No matter how much I take the mickey that, you know, he has a pretty grim, easy death in Jedi. They did spoil the mystique of the guy and a great character. But, you know, for me, you've got to use people in the right way. One of my least favourite moments in the sequels is in Force Awakens when Harrison Ford's running away from those creatures on his ship.
Oh yeah,
He looks
the
like-
Scottish gangsters.
Yeah, with the Scottish gangsters. But the big things with the tentacles, whatever.
Rathtar.
Your Rathars, yeah, thanks.
No
He
problem.
looks like a 70-odd-year-old man running, and that's not what I wanted to see. You know, have him, as you say about Bob, have him sat in a chair reminiscing. Have him, you know, he's now got on a bit, so he's in the Rebel Alliance or whatever it's called these days, and he's sat behind a desk giving orders. Don't have him running and looking like an old fella running, because that's not what I wanted to see.
But that's what it is.
But use him as an old fella, because old fellas wouldn't be running.
Pass the
Have
baton
him-
on and have him as the brains of the operation.
or have him sat in the Falcon, flying the Falcon, but don't have him running.
But does that not go with your counter argument of suspend belief?
Yeah, exactly.
But you're asking me to suspend belief about something that's real. When we're talking about suspending
Boba-
belief,
Boba
something
Fett's-
that's not
Boba Fett's
real.
teeth were
Old
real.
men can't run and shouldn't be running. You know,
Yeah, that's James May.
ask me. They could have just used them so much better. And one of the things that's come out of this chat for me is what you said. They should have all been together. We wanted to see all.
Do you remember we all watched Aliens? And then you get to the end of it, you're like, whew, they're the ones who survived. Then you start Alien 3, and he's dead in the pod already. And Newt's dead as well. And there's just who survived. And then it's like, oh, you start on a downer. Well, that was Han and Leia. The carbon scene. I love you, I know. And then you get to Force Awakens, it's like, oh yeah, it didn't work. Didn't work. And they just thrown all that away. And that was it. I was out already. At that moment, why are they not together? I don't understand it. Don't understand it. It was a fairy tale. They should be together. And that ruined it. That was the thing that ruined the whole film. It was like, no, these aren't. I don't know who these people are.
Some of it you wonder if they're just trying to be inclusive, you know, like separated family and all that kind of thing. Modern wokeness, and you know, there's a lesbian kiss in Rise of Skywalker, which
Yeah,
doesn't
blink and you'd miss it.
which doesn't add anything to the story or any of the characters. It's clearly just there to
And
be
you probably wouldn't actually notice it if people didn't make a big thing about it.
to be inclusive, and Disney are like that, aren't they?
Not too sure we're in a position to talk about inclusivity as for white men of a certain age debating the fictional characters of Star Wars.
We're not allowed. Apparently. But well, that's the problem. So maybe what we're saying is, it's not us that are wrong, and it's not them that are wrong. It's the times that it was made in.
And I also think there's a lot of it is us now because we'll go to each other's house on a Wednesday and watch whatever. I've said it to him. What, are you expecting it to be any good this week? No, not really. And you're on a downhill before you even turn it on.
But that's after.
But we turn it on. We
That's
still
true.
turn it on.
But that's after 3 or 4 episodes in. When you get to episode 1 of a new season, we're like, come on, let's have it. And we do have high expectations because when Star Wars is good, it's great.
But how many times can they disappoint us? Because that's what we're doing.
How long have you got?
The first episode is great. Yeah, wonderful. That were amazing. But it's just the same for every series.
To me, the perfect Star Wars, and there may be a filler in there, I can't remember, on TV is Obi-Wan, I've said that. But behind that, close second, is season 2 of The Mandalorian. It just built and it got better. And, when you see things being brought into canon that were either an animated character or a toy and stuff like that. And the crescendo of the thing where they brought Luke into it, for me, is probably one of the highlights of any Star Wars. I remember watching that episode. For whatever reason, we didn't watch it together. And I remember, I think it might have been COVID. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I was watching it on my own. And when you see the X-Wing coming in, you see it on a monitor. And so you can't see the designation on the wings. And you're like, wonder if that could be Luke. Then you see this from behind, this guy in a black robe, and you're like, oh, I think it is Luke. And it's like somebody's teasing. It's like foreplay almost. It's like, and then the green lightsaber, and then he starts smashing his way through all the Dark Troopers.
And then you start thinking, is he going to look better than Moff Tarkin in Rogue One?
And he didn't in the first edit. They quickly corrected that. And if you go back
I
and
didn't
watch
think he was that bad, though.
No, it wasn't that. It wasn't that.
It didn't
bad, but
steal the moment.
it wasn't as good. No, it didn't spoil the moment.
I think what spoiled the moment is... Was it Booker Bobber? Is that where he showed up next?
Yeah.
That's what stole the moment and destroyed it. And then they're like, okay, yeah, we're not giving up Grogu just now because he's making too much money for us. And
Then that's the Disney thing. And I'm a big Disney fan.
Let's have the story over.
But that's, yeah.
The merchandising.
You're right. He should have stayed with Luke.
You don't need... But you make anything from the show and the merchandise is going to sell.
Yeah.
Because that's what Star Wars does.
But you'll find that they'll have some marketing people who will have all this data in front of them, and it'll say, for example, we're selling plenty of stuff to girls aged 7 to 9 and boys 18 plus, those idiots, and but we don't have anything for children between 3 and 6 or something. And so let's shoehorn something in, Grogu or whatever it is, and then they put the toy. Right, we've got that bit going now. Now, what about girls aged
Din
7
Grogu.
Yeah, Din Grogu.
I mean, I nearly threw it. What's that about? Just let him go.
But why not Grogu Jaren? Is it reverse in Mandalorian or something? I don't get it.
Yeah, Din's the
Surname,
yeah. No, Din's the
family name.
yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, one of the biggest things for me, biggest disappointment, is when they brought Cad Bane back. They brought Cad Bane back, and it's like bang dead.
Yeah, but nobody... Now we get to the point where nobody dies in Star Wars. Like we know Moff Gideon's going to be. We can't talk spoilers, can we?
I don't know anything what's going on at the moment. So
If Darth Maul can come back after being cut in half, anybody can come back, can't they?
That Celebration, that was my favourite cosplay. Did you see the guy?
No.
He was Darth Maul from the top, and then he had green morph suit legs. And then his mate was Darth Maul from the waist down and had the morph suit on the
Brilliant.
top.
No,
Superb.
I didn't see it.
No.
Superb. But yeah, I think there's a danger in that. The fact that nobody seems to die, they can just bring people back whenever they want.
And even if they don't bring them back
Although
fully,
bringing Maul back was a good idea.
Yeah, it was.
He's a good character.
Han coming back in Rise of Skywalker as a memory.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah.
Didn't work for me.
No. What? Just that bit?
Just that bit.
Yeah, I thought it was a bit far-fetched.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah, interesting. Let's see where it goes. I'm getting to the point when it all started happening. I was like, no, they can fix this. They can fix this, and then the next thing, no, they can fix it. It's like when you drop food on the floor, and I'm at the point now where that's staying on the floor because I can't see a fix for it. But now I think the light at the end of the tunnel might be there's a show that's for you, and other people don't like it, but you're going to like it.
But, you know, another thing I once read online that I thought was absolutely spot on is, you know, if we go into a restaurant and there's a menu, there will be stuff on there that you like and I don't, and vice versa, and stuff that...
Probably seafood. I'm not a big seafood fan.
No, I'm not. So we can agree on one thing.
I love it.
Or order what you like and eat it. And the same thing's going to apply to Star Wars, isn't it? There's going to be a menu, and there will be some things you don't like. You know, I've already said I like almost everything. Visions I couldn't deal with. Star Wars Visions.
Yeah, I didn't.
But sorry, while you're using that analogy, and I don't just want to keep picking holes and things I don't agree with, but that analogy only works if every time you go to a restaurant, you eat seafood to see what it's like, because that's what you're doing with Star Wars. You keep watching it. Like, that's like me going and going, do you know what? I'll try seafood, and I try it and go, you know what? I still don't like it. I'm going to leave it. But you insist on eating every meal of seafood just to find a restaurant that you enjoy seafood in.
Well,
So I need to stop watching.
It's a fair point, but here's the thing. I have tried seafood. That's how I found out I didn't like it. And I have watched certain Star Wars things, and that's how I found out I didn't like that. And so yes, I get it. I understand your point. So if you take the Andor thing in the analogy, I kept eating seafood hoping that I would like it. I understand your point that you're making. But the positive I'm trying to pull out of this is that there it is. That's what's on offer. If you don't like it, don't watch it. If you know, with the menu, if you don't like it, don't order it. For example, I'm on my 4th rewatch of Obi-Wan Kenobi, the TV series, but I haven't watched Vision. Well, I didn't finish Visions. I haven't watched Andor again, and I will not be watching season 3 of Mandalorian again. Whereas I watched season 2 3 times because I really liked it. I haven't watched season 1 more than the once. So there is something, you know, and I just saw it as a positive.
Some measure of viewing figures at least.
I just
saw you're rewatching.
Yeah, I just saw it as a positive. This thing that I read about, it's like a menu, and if you know, just order what you like and eat it, watch what you like and enjoy it.
Okay, now I get that. I've heard it, and it makes perfect sense to me. But I might be a bit weird in this, but I'm a bit like, if I like a band, you're not just listening to the music. You buy into the band, so you get in. You know, you're interested in the personality of the members of the band. If the band changes, somebody leaves, someone comes in. Where did they go to? What band are they in now? And you get into the whole scene. You know, you're a fanatic for that band, and you like the albums. And if they do a bad album, then you hope the next one's going to be better. And if they keep doing bad albums, then you leave the band. So they might have done 3 good albums. By this point, they've done 4 bad albums. I don't want to be saying to someone, oh yeah, I really like such and such band, but only the first 3 albums. Do you know what I mean? It's like I need to leave that, but I don't want to tell anybody that I like that band because now they've done more bad than good.
But there are people like that, don't there? I know people who only like early Genesis, for example.
Oh, yeah.
They don't like when Phil Collins started doing the vocals.
Yeah.
You know. And it's a strange thing, isn't it? The stuff I don't like, and I've said I don't like, I've still bought action figures from it because I'm that heavily invested in it, and I want my plastic crack fix that I've been out and bought Andor figures. You know,
Some you've even liked that much you bought twice.
well, it's not that I like them that much; it's that I forget I've already got them. So you know, there is definitely an element in me that I just kind of am a Star Wars fan, and I'm not sure I could ever ditch it because I'm so heavily invested in it. So, you know, your band thing about, well, I'm no longer into a Genesis because Phil Collins is singing now and I don't like it. It's all my life virtually from 17 to, you know, well, I'm nearly 30 now. No, to 63 years old, I'm not just going to ditch it.
Yeah, but it's like you meet some people. I mean, some people are in this fandom are a bit geeky, and you might meet someone, or you say to someone, "Oh yeah, I'm a big Star Wars fan," and then they say, "Oh, I love Grogu," and you're like, "I don't want to talk about Grogu because I don't like Grogu." But you said you were a Star Wars fan. It's like, no, I'm not. There's that much of it now that not all of it's for me.
No, not all of
I
it.
suppose at that point is when I have to explain the menu.
Not all of it's for me, and I understand the thing, and that's what I was trying to get at earlier, where they're going like, right, you know, we don't have women aged 23 to 29, you know.
Yeah,
we're
but
not doing anything for them, so let's have a cute character.
Why
that
do we
love.
have to do so? Why? There's stuff that's out there that's aimed at, like, my wife. She's not 29. I wish, but she watches. She watches like Married at First Sight. Yeah, I'm never going to watch that. Doesn't matter what they do to that show. I'm not going to watch it. Oh, I'm going to watch it if she's watching it and be on my phone. And I'm going to look up every 10 minutes.
What if they put Stormtroopers and
slag
stuff
it off?
in it? You might watch it then.
No, it's be a gimmick, wouldn't it? Be a gimmick.
But that's what Grogu is. He's a gimmick.
But yeah,
Grogu was great.
Why not make that show for her, and she watches it? Why? Nobody's there waving banners saying, "Oh, I'm not represented in this show." I don't want to watch that show. That's for her. Leave her to it.
No, I get it. The best answer
Why
I can
mix
give
it?
you is because they're a business and they want the whole market.
Yeah,
that's the best answer I can
You
give.
can alienate your audience at the same time. Are they going to bring? But they know we're idiots because we're still watching the stuff. I need to cancel that subscription now.
You're still
I need to send a clear message.
you're still debating it now, 2 hours into this. So they've got you where they want you.
Absolutely. It's genius
Yeah.
when you think about it.
Because we're still all here with different opinions, varying opinions of I'll maybe watch the next thing.
Clarky, what do I need to do? Cancel my subscription and leave it alone.
But
Stop picking the scab.
yeah, pretty much. Well,
I'm going to ask you a question now then.
Stop picking the scab.
It's never going to heal,
profound.
is it? It's never going to heal.
I'm going to ask you a question then. So, you doing what you do for a living, how late would you ever go
What do you mean?
with the armour?
We only do original trilogy stuff.
But what if the need was out there? Would you do a Mandalorian?
No.
Would you not?
No. No, because we don't look at this as a commercial thing. Much like the show. We can bring it back to the show now. Much like the show, it's more of a passion thing. And this is what we're interested in. So for me, I mean, he's going to be shaking his head. Prequels, maybe.
Cut.
What would you do from the prequels? Clones?
I love Clone.
Yeah, but
Only the second phase.
That's where, for me, and I'm an idiot action figure collector. That's where the marketing started before Disney were involved. Lucas was a brilliant marketer. So all through the original trilogy, Stormtroopers are white. They're all white. Yes, there's a couple of variants. There's a Space Trooper, there's a Scout Trooper, and there's a Snow Trooper.
Well, each film had its own.
But
Brought
they,
brought
they
a
were
new
all
thing,
white.
didn't
And
it?
Stormtroopers looked the same whether they were on Tatooine. Okay, there were Sand Troopers.
But I don't think they introduced Snow Troopers thinking we can market this.
No, they didn't.
I think it was part of the story.
What I'm saying is, they were all the same, apart from, yes, these are needed because it's snowing and icy. Then we get to the prequels, and George asks us to swallow. Well, what they did with the white armour is they painted them in different colours to designate which planets they were on. No, they didn't. What you're doing is making idiots like me buy 45 different clones instead of one Stormtrooper. And of course, I shelled out and got a 212th Attack Battalion and you know, a whatever, 327 Star Corps and blah, blah, blah. And I've got all these different coloured that are all the same mould, but just painted differently. And I forked out for it, whatever it is, 40 odd times instead of just once when I bought a Stormtrooper in 78.
Yeah.
That's when the marketing started. It wasn't Disney who put the marketing into Star Wars, it was George.
I can see that. But some of them are interesting now, the paint designs.
Oh yeah, I don't doubt that, but I'm just saying the reason they were introduced is definitely for marketing. And the same reason that, you know, through the Star Wars original trilogy, the baddie was Vader. But in the prequels, Maul, Dooku, and then, you know, the Emperor just becoming the Emperor, and Anakin becoming Vader. And it's just figures, merchandise. We didn't, you know, battle droids. And then in the second movie, clones, which we now call Phase 1 clones, because in the third movie we had Phase 2 clones.
We've changed the armour.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like Phase 1 clones.
No, Phase 2 are the better ones.
Yeah.
And then all the variants of them. Galactic Marines, Airborne Troopers, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I can see that. But I could look beyond that. I could suspend my disbelief. It was the moment I saw Han running that ruined it for me.
Yeah, same for me.
But
Just that bit.
just that.
Just that bit.
But yeah, I think there's that much of it now. It's when you say you're a Star Wars fan, it means different things now than it did 20 years ago.
And should we not be celebrating that? One of the great things about being a Star Wars fan.
I can't argue with Neil, by the way, because he does counter with a very good explanation for things.
No.
Well,
Don't be telling him that.
already before you get into this TV thing that we've been discussing, as a Star Wars fan, you could be an autograph collector, you could be a prop maker, you could be a costumer, you could be a dumbass toy collector, you could just love the cartoon series, you could love the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy. There are a lot of different ways in which you can express your fandom. So the fact that things are different now is not necessarily that different. There's always been different ways to be a Star Wars fan. It's just that the number of ways is growing.
Yeah, it's definitely taken the shine off it a bit for me. Less now. Now, funnily enough, now that there's more of it, I can just separate it out. And I'm just happy to say original trilogy. But when the sequels first came out, I was struggling a bit really with it. with the whole Star Wars thing because it didn't speak to me.
I'll go back to something I said a while ago now. George made some films in the 70s that were made for kids in the 70s, and then he made some in the 90s for kids in the 90s, and you weren't a kid in the 90s.
But who were the new ones made for?
The kids of the 2000s and 20s or whatever we're in now, whatever we call it, the noughties, the 20s, or whatever it is. I'm too old to figure it out.
I don't know. You see, I struggle with that. So with understanding who they're for, because my kids are not that into them. He likes the Clone Wars, the cartoon.
Maybe they got it completely wrong then.
My eldest lad's not a big Star Wars fan, but I think that's because he's had Star Wars rammed down his throat from an early age. He's just kicking back. He'll probably like it when I'm dead. I'll appreciate it then. I'll take that to my grave. Belief that he's going to appreciate it.
This has taken a downward turn.
I was going to say, I think this is around the time that would probably be good to wrap it up. If anyone's stuck with it this long, they don't want to be ending it on that note.
Yeah, it's probably getting dark outside. So the show is in a few weeks.
3 weeks on Sunday.
I think anybody who's any of those Star Wars fans that we've covered would enjoy that show.
100%.
And they should definitely think about attending. Links will be somewhere, wherever you find your links, and wherever you're enjoying this ramble.
We will put a link on our Instagram page, for example. We've got a link tree which has all our links on. We'll post a link on there. We'll post a link under this YouTube video when it goes out next week. We'll probably post the links on Facebook as well.
Well, thanks for coming in, both of you, and talking Star Wars.
Pleasure.
Thanks for having us. It's been an absolute pleasure. And thanks for everything you do for the show.
Well, thanks for running the show and continue to run it.
It's an absolute honour to run that show.
Well, it shows. It shows. If someone's passionate about anything, you can see it, can't you?
Yeah,
And that's the bottom line. That's what's special about the show.
just watch me running around on the day.
So yeah, I can't wait to attend, and we'll be putting more on our channel certainly afterwards. Some post-show videos and discussions, I'm sure.
I look forward to that.
So all the best with it, and I'll see you there.
See you there.
See you there.